All right, we are back to close the loop on the Terrence Shannon trial. Terrence Shannon Jr. is found not guilty of the rape that he was accused of in the middle of the season. The trial concluded, I believe, on Friday. Carter was traveling back from vacation on Friday, thus no video that day. We'll be quick on this. This is not going to be 30 minutes in length. If you want a longer form conversation on the details that came to light in this trial as Terrence took the stand and many others. There is a longer video that we did on Thursday, the day before a verdict was reached. You can find that on the channel. For now, though, your reaction to the news that Terrence Shannon Jr. has been found not guilty.
I mean, throughout the whole trial, right, there was just a lot of emotions, I think, going around from all sides, whether it was, the prosecutor, and the defense, kind of honestly, I guess, putting in question or going after Kansas PD lead investigator, whatever the correct term is for it, and for good reason with how this investigation was handled, how it was labeled, and the following, like the follow up of what happened after the original incident that was reported. But at the end of all this, I think that I find relief in the fact that a young man who was frankly falsely accused of the actions that he was accused of, which was rape, was able to come to light and he was found not guilty, which I think the evidence pointed to the fact that he should have been found not guilty. Now, there are some parts of this that don't sit right with me. Obviously, I think it's up to personal preference or personal kind of how you look at it. Some of the follow up with what has been occurring, I guess, against the alleged victim, who came forward with this. Some of that doesn't sit right with me. Obviously, even whether you feel like who was a victim in this case or who it was, people are people. And I think that some of the follow up against the accuser hasn't really sat right with me, I guess is the phrase I would use. But at the end of the day, I think Taren Shannon Jr. went through so much in this trial and had his name and his character dragged through the mud. And he was able to clear his name, and now hopefully the process of him living his life moving forward can go on without having this what he was labeled as, basically, and what he was accused of. He was able to clear his name, which I think brings a sense of relief to a lot of people.
Yeah, couple quick takeaways from me. Most important thing here, I'm very happy for Terrence Shannon Jr. because, look, call it bias here. I'm sure everyone has their biases on certain things. From meeting him in person, again, we said we were shocked that these allegations occurred. We try to be very careful because, of course, there was a chance that this actually happened. The overwhelming evidence of everything that happened that night pointed to this verdict being reached. The overwhelming evidence, if you looked at what actually happened, what was said, witnesses, all of it, is that Taren Shannon Jr. did not do this, and that this was a massive waste of time for this to actually go to a trial. And the fact that this cost him so many things in the last year, his final year of playing college basketball, is really sad looking back on it. So I am just happy. The video of him when the verdict was announced, I mean, he's just pretty stoic, and you see all of the people on his team and his family members get real emotional. They deserve this. They deserve justice, and they deserve a future going forward. He deserves a future going forward. I pray and I hope that this is what is going to come for him. Two, I don't think we did a good enough job in the first video of just speaking to this part, but man, I want to give a lot of credit to Terrence himself for how he handled all of this, taking the stand himself. It's really hard pressed for me to remember someone have to go through something, like a college athlete have to go through something this heavy, knowing that he did not do this, and just deal with it. I mean, let's be very real about what happened to him this year. He was accused of this on public, like public record of this, December 28th, right after Christmas, goes public that Terrence Shannon Jr., the second best college basketball player in the country, is accused of rape. Holy shit. He went and drove himself to turn himself in. He solidly the entire time said, I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I didn't do this. He's suspended. Cost him 3 weeks of his season. In the midst of that, every single possible college basketball site reports on this. I mean, I'm not even going to name the names, but ESPN, CBS, every possible platform you could find, Taren Shannon Jr. accused of rape, suspended. That's what you get. Mainstream people who don't follow this closely now think Terrence Shannon Jr. is a rapist. The second best college basketball player can't play. And that's the least important thing that was going on, the fact that he can't play. He sues Illinois because he knows he's innocent. He sues Illinois to be able to play. He wins that. He's allowed to play. Now Brad Underwood, and I know I'm just rehashing everything that happened here, but it's crazy to me looking back on this. Brad Underwood's now faced with a decision, right? Because when he was now available to play again, and this is in Brad Underwood's hands, there was going to be a lot of criticism if Brad Underwood let Terrence Shannon Jr. return to the team and play. Ultimately, Brad did, because Brad knows who Terrence Shannon Jr. is. He knows his character. I'm sure they talked behind the scenes. I'm sure Brad stood supportively in belief of Terrence, saying, I know you didn't do this. I'm going to play you. And Brad took a lot of heat for that. Specific big name platform people gave him a lot of shit for that. And ultimately, Taren Shannon Jr. just goes on the rest of the season, man. He leads Illinois to their most successful finish since I was a little kid. They win the Big Ten tournament. They make an Elite Eight run. I think he averaged like 31 points a game in postseason play, all while being accused of rape, all while everywhere he goes on the road, he's hearing no means no chance. I mean, the things that were yelled in his direction were awful. And yes, what he was accused of was awful. But for a kid that did not do this, to be found not guilty, know all along he didn't do this, and have to deal with all of that, man, I'm just so impressed with how he handled that in the moment. I'm so impressed with how he played in the moment. I'm so impressed by how he handled this trial. I'm impressed by the other teammates and players that took the stand. It can't have been easy for Hunter Dickinson and various players, Kevin McCullough, to chime in on this, but they did in support of him because they know who he is and they know what didn't happen. And coming back on it, man, I think I hope Terrence Shannon Jr. is remembered as one of the greatest Illini ever, because I seriously don't think, I can't think of a situation like this. Obviously, it's unprecedented. But to do what he did with this team as the best player on this team in the middle of what he was doing personally, that's pantheon stuff, man. And I know this is more important than just basketball, but it was already an impressive season as it was. He didn't get the flowers he deserved for it. He didn't make an All-American team. Accolades he would have gotten were robbed from him because of this. He didn't play at the NBA Combine. Like, there was a lot up in the air here. And I think going forward, he's going to get a chance to have the NBA career that he deserves. But, man, I hope retroactively we can give him some of the flowers he deserved for this season, because I would be in support of Terrence Shannon Jr.'s number hanging in the rafters at the State Farm Center after all that he has been through. And the way he handled himself so maturely with so much poise, man, I just have so much respect for that kid.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, you know, just different people look at things differently in this case, and I agree with everything that you just said right there. But I didn't even get to think about that part or feel about that part, just because all I can think about is that just Terrence Shannon Jr. the person has been proven that he did not do this, right? And that, I mean, that is the greatest accolade that he should, you know, his name and his character have been basically have been set clean, and it should be, given the situation, given the case. And this is, it's such a heavy thing to talk about, such a heavy just case in general, because this literally could have a false accusation. It could have ruined his life, his family's life, all of that. And there are many of cases that are this same situation that don't have the same outcome that Terrence Shannon was able to able to have. So, um, at the end of all this, you want to see justice served, and I feel like it was, which, I feel like people can be happy about. But yes, the fact that, he everything that you spoke about this season, what he did for the Illini basketball team, what he had to go through personally, it was relieving to see him vindicated, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I just straight up, if I am an NBA GM, I don't know that I'm gonna find a more mature, poised man than Taren Shannon after this, right? Like, I mean, just the wild swing from like there were probably NBA organizations that would have said like, "Oh, we're not touching that guy because of what he's been accused to now, like if I'm in charge of hiring a new player for my organization, like man, you talk about mental toughness, and character stuff. Terrence is an all-time great, in my opinion, at that, based on how and this is part of his story. Like it or not, this has now become part of his life story. When the life story of Terrence Shannon Jr. is told, years from now, like man, you're gonna have to talk about the fact that he was accused of this and the fact that he was found not guilty of this and the way he handled himself in the middle of that is a massive important piece to me. A couple more small things for me. I don't want to belabor this because we already hit the important stuff, but oh, how do I say this? We I said this in the last video. I speaking for me personally, and I think you feel the same based on conversations we've had offline. We felt we had an obligation to cover this a certain way because of the way we talk Illinois basketball, because of who Terrence Shannon Jr. was to Illinois basketball. It would not have been right for us to just ignore this any step of the way. Look, we're not like journalistic integrity people. We're not people that run around and say we have to do things the right way. But when there's something as important as this to someone that is as important to what we do, there was a sense of responsibility to the way we wanted to go about this and had to go about this. Um, I don't feel like anybody else operated under the same things, and this is non-Illinois specific. There's plenty of Illinois specific platforms that I'm sure did a great job of this, and I saw some, I watched some, I think covered this really, really in depth. Man, there's a whole lot of national media people that were silent about this when the verdict came through, and that's really frustrating to me. Um, It just is. I don't think this was fair at all, and maybe I shouldn't have expected fair. But if you're a platform that came in and reported and did content and had breaking news, Terrence Shannon rape in a sentence in the middle of the season, and maybe you wrote a think piece telling people that Brad Underwood shouldn't play, he should be ashamed of himself if he plays Terrence Shannon, and now you're silent. Maybe now you're deleting some tweets. Maybe there's not even a retweet or a post of the fact that Terrence Shannon was found not guilty of this. To me, that feels pretty agenda hunting and pretty gross. And I was really frustrated with how that went down from a lot of different people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't want to speak on it too much, but it says something. I will say that.
Just not great. It seems very easy to just tweet a hey, Terrence Shannon Jr. was found not guilty to your hundreds of thousands of followers that you promoted the fact that he was accused of it, but didn't close the loop on it. Like
And have a hard time not having the thought come across my head that if it was somebody else or some other player, might have been approached differently.
seems easy. But hey, who am I to say? I mean, I surely the world needed 300 Dan Hurley think pieces last week, right? I mean, we needed 300 sit down. Hey, did you know that Andrea Hurley cried? Did you know that?
Uh,
I'd like to give you more details on how she cried and how Dan Hurley hates his own players, but he's back. You know,
how many tears dropped from her eyes?
just ridiculous, man. Like the amount of stories of that coming through the same day Terrence Shannon's found not guilty and these people are silent just made me so angry. But hey, I to each their own, I guess. Last very final last thing on this for me. You alluded to it briefly. Speaking for me, I can beg people, I can implore people. Obviously, people are going to do what they want. I would implore people, don't go after the alleged victim here. Um, Justice was served in the form of Taren Shannon Jr. being found not guilty. ruining this girl's life. I'm not into it. I'm not into it. And I wasn't in the room. I wasn't part of this trial. I saw all of the information come out. You can be angry with her. People are going to be angry with her. I get it. The reality is we don't know. Something could have happened that wasn't with Terrence Shannon Jr. here. That's still very much on the table. And the reality of her not getting the verdict that she was after here, that's enough justice for her. We don't need hundreds of people tormenting this girl, messaging her on social media. And I don't know. That's an icky part of this. That was to be expected, of course, but it saddens me a little bit to see that that's the path being taken here.
Yeah, it doesn't sit right with me. But that's, obviously personal. But hey.
Yeah. All right. That is the final time we're going to talk about this on the channel. Taren Shannon Jr. not guilty. The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.